And when I look back, the people who have made the biggest difference were not the individuals who had their names in lights. I know a lot of great preachers, but these were not the individuals who made the biggest difference in my life. I think of Sister Ada Thornton. Sister Ada Thornton was a member of the Berea Temple Seventh-day Adventist Church when I was growing up. And Sister Thornton was looking out of the window one day, and she saw me talking to some gang members. Now, you have to remember when you don't have a father in the home. Once you're bigger than your mother, all bets are off. Serious. I mean, you come and go as you please. You do whatever you want to do. And I was coming in at 2 and 3 in the morning, and I was angry because my father wasn't in the home. So my mother, where are you? Where you? Hey, look, I'm a man. I come, I go when I please. Sister Thornton saw me talking with some gang members who were basically saying, do you want to get paid? And getting paid was code for participating in deviancy or misbehavior, from burglarizing, armed robbery, whatever you needed in order to get money. And Sister Thornton called me the next day to her house and said, Barry, I need somebody to wash my steps. Now, in Baltimore, if you've seen those row houses and the white steps, and she gave me a bucket of water and a can of Ajax. You gotta be at least 90 years old to know what Ajax is. And she had me scrubbing her steps, and she gave me more money than she should have for washing her steps to take away the monetary incentive of the gang. Because when they called me over and said, you want to get paid, don't you? I had something in my pocket so that I didn't have to be involved in what they were involved in. She kept me out of prison. Okay? Because most of the folk I grew up with are either dead or incarcerated. Now, no credit for that. Never made the newspaper, name not in lights. But Sister Thornton, talking about breaking the chains of the slavery, Sister Thornton broke that generational cycle of incarceration in my family by those quarters and dollars that she gave me for that task. She left the world better than she found it. And that is why the Bible says many who are now first, name in lights, will be last. And many who are now last will be first. Second person who left the world better than she found it was Sister Albertha Brown. Sister Albertha Brown was a Jamaican. And one of the most beautiful people I have ever met. She was a caterer, a professional cook. I didn't realize that. But Sister Brown knew that if I left church school and went back to Division Street in the Stone Hood, whatever I got in church school wouldn't stay there very long. So she arranged for me to come to 1644 Bentlow Street, her house, every day with Alvin, Leroy, Rose, and Lenny, her children. And she treated me like I was her fifth child. Time to eat, she put out the plates. There was my place at the table. I was able to study and not worry about hearing gunshots or seeing domestic violence across the street because somebody's common law spouse was beaten up on him or her. Because there were women in my neighborhood who would beat up their man. I mean, we had some Amazon types, okay? And Sister Albertha Brown, praise God, left the world better than she found it. But imagine, Monday through Friday, she's feeding an extra child. But she saved my life. The third person in my neighborhood, one of my favorite people, was Sister Ethel Cox. Sister Ethel Cox had a little money. She had a big house on Utah Street. Now, my mama was only making $6 a day as a domestic. But Sister Cox would have me come to her place on Utah Street, 4 stories. And on Sundays, I would clean. And she would give me, for that one Sunday's work, now I told you my mama was only making $6 a day, she would give me $15, which back in the 50s was serious money. Young people, you don't understand what $15 meant. You could buy the big Snicker bar. I'm not talking about these little things that you talking about. I'm talking about the big Snicker bar for 5 cents back in the day. You could buy the daddy roof, not the baby roof, the daddy roof. Lord have mercy. You could buy the pay week, not the payday, the pay week for 5 cents, okay? And so here she was again, seeing some potential and leaving the world better than she found it. Martin Luther King Jr., and since we are approaching his holiday, ended his last sermon at Ebenezer Baptist Church by talking about leaving the world better than he found it. And I end with, you all probably know it by rote. He said, every now and then I guess we all stop and think realistically about that day when we will be victimized by what is life's final common denominator. That's something we call death. We all think about it, and every now and then I think about my own death. And I think about my own funeral, and I don't think about it in a morbid sense. Every now and then I ask myself the question, what it is that I would want said, and I leave the word with you this morning. If any of you are around when it comes my time to meet my day, I don't want a long funeral. And if you get somebody to deliver the eulogy, tell him not to talk too long. Tell him not to mention that I've won a Nobel Peace Prize. That isn't important. Tell him not to mention that I've won 300 or 400 other awards. That isn't important. Tell him not to mention where I went to school. Because I want somebody to be able to say in that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to give his life serving others. I want somebody to be able to say in that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want them to be able to say that I did try to feed the hungry. I want them to be able to say that I did try in my life to clothe the naked. I want them to be able to say that I did try in my life to visit those who were in prison. I want them to be able to say that I tried to be right on the war question. I want them to be able to say that I tried to love and to serve humanity. And then, like any good Baptist preacher gathering himself, he said, yes, if you must say that I was a drum major. Say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for truth. Say that I was a drum major for righteousness. And all of the other shallow things of life will not matter. And then, of course, you know you got to get into a little bit of a moan. So he said, I won't have any money to leave behind. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. I won't have any of the fine, luxurious things of life to leave behind, but I just want to leave a committed life behind. And that's all I've got to say. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody he's traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. If I can do my duty as a Christian ought, if I can spread salvation to a world that's wrought, if I can tell the story as the Master taught, then my living shall not be in vain. Yes, Lord, I want to be on your right side or your left side. Not for any selfish reason. I want to be on your right side or your left, not in terms of some political kingdom or ambition. I just want to be there in love, in justice, in service to others. That's where I want to be. My sisters and brothers, leave the world better than you found